It was the end of his mutiny, and the last time we saw Yevgeny Prigozhin. Under a deal with the Kremlin on Saturday, the Wagner chief had pulled back his fighters in exchange for immunity from prosecution, and he agreed to move to Belarus. It's not clear where he is now. But today, Mr. Prigozhin posted this message. He hadn't tried to overthrow Russia's government, he said. It was just a protest to stop Wagner being disbanded and to punish those who'd made mistakes in what he called the special military operation in Ukraine. To try to reassert his authority, President Putin summoned security chiefs to a late-night meeting. Since his TV address on Saturday, he'd stayed silent on the mutiny that he's called an act of treachery. Tonight, he addressed the nation again.
It was the patriotism of our citizens, the consolidation of the whole of Russian society that played the decisive role in these events. This support helped us overcome the most difficult challenges that our motherland faced. Thank you for this.
After a weekend of high drama, in the Russian capital, it didn't feel like victory. The mutiny had failed, but there are still more questions than answers about what had happened, and a lot of uncertainty about what's in store. Russian officials have been queuing up to denounce Mr. Prigozhin as a traitor. But Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin also blamed the West today for what had happened. Russia, he said, had faced a challenge to its stability. We need to rally around the president. State TV was on message. The presenter claims that Russians had united to support Vladimir Putin and denounce treachery. Enemies were in ecstasy during the mutiny, she said. The traitor Yevgeny Prigozhin did a good job for Western propaganda. But at the newspaper kiosk, I discovered a different reaction. In the dailies, it was less blame the West and much more, where is Russia heading? Russian newspapers are really interesting on this today. Even though the media landscape here is heavily controlled by the state, some of the papers are saying things the Kremlin isn't. For example, this paper says that with the mutiny, Russia has demonstrated its vulnerability to the whole world and to itself. And this paper calls what Mr. Prigozhin has done an unprecedented challenge to Vladimir Putin. It says it will have long-term consequences for Russia. Events seem to take the Kremlin by surprise. Did 2 decades in power make Vladimir Putin too confident?
After 23 years, I mean, you do lose your sense of reality. In a giant country like this, when everything is in the center and everybody is doing everything at your whim, you would be incredibly great person not to lose your marbles this way.
He's under pressure, but don't write off Vladimir Putin. One thing he's learnt since coming to power is how to stay there. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.